Newcastle City Council meeting of September 3rd, 2024 order. Please rise for the invocation. Heavenly Father, we come before you today in humility and faith. We thank you for all you have given us and many blessings in our lives. We ask for guidance and strength. Show us the way and fill us with courage and wisdom. Help us to remember your love and grace and to be faithful in our service to you. Give us the patience and understanding to face life's challenges with grace. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have approval of the agenda. I do have two things to add. Under citizens business verbal, number 3, Weston County Freedom Festival. And then under executive session, adding 16-4-405 II personnel.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion we approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Can I get approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Monday, August 19th, 2024?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Moving on to citizens business verbal, number 1, Weston County regarding the story walk.
I have a few issues on this one here. Stacked. They're all big.
Oh.
I just made 3 copies.
That's not
This is all. Alright, I'm Erin Darlington Witcher, and this is Caleb Carter with the Weston County Natural Resource District, and we are here to request the city's cooperation in installing a permanent set of displays for a story walk at the backyard park. A few of you might have seen us at the Choke Cherry Festival a few weeks ago with the painted rain barrels. That was a fundraiser for this story walk program, trying to kind of create the base of funding and then start this story walk program. If you don't know what a story walk is, it's basically where you take a children's book and post pages of it along the trail, so you can walk the trail and read the book together with your family. I'm currently working on applying for a grant through the Wyoming Community Foundation, and I intend to apply for others. If we receive the requested amount, it would be enough to fully fund the purchase, installation, and maintenance of the permanent displays at this park, as well as prepare several books. If we don't receive that grant money, we're still going to create temporary story walks with the money that we raised from the auction, and it will just be temporary displays on the wire H-frames instead of like a permanent display. So it'll just be ones that we have for a week or 2 at a time at parks and trails around Weston County. So what we're asking from the city, first and foremost, is to allow us to install these temporary story walks at parks around town, and then also to permit the installation of the permanent story walk at Backyard Park if and when we receive the funding or raise enough money to pay for these displays. if you guys have any questions or I have more details if you're interested.
So would this be more around the walking path?
Yeah.
Versus where they'll be riding bikes and nobody's gonna collide into it?
Ideally, yeah. I haven't seen the most recent plans for the backyard park, but yeah, we don't want people getting run over because they're reading book page.
Yeah, we'll coordinate. I mean, if the city council is okay with that, we can coordinate with Vince Brockens too, and, you know, make sure that it's going to be situated in an area that's going to be, you know, not in the way of what else is going on with the park and stuff. And the other site we thought about too was, I think it's Centennial Park. We always call it Red, White, and Blue Park with the kids, so. We thought about doing one there, maybe a temporary one, because there's already a walking path there that you can go walk around the park, and so it would be a really fun place to do it. Longer term, we're hoping to get some installed at some of the local trails like Flying Bee and Serenity as well. So.
Is there, Greg, there's a project proposal, right?
Yes,
So can we get one to them that allows?
absolutely. That would be the best way to probably proceed, so that we'll have the necessary information.
Yep, sounds great.
I think it's a great idea. I think once you have that project proposal, we'll be able to look at it with make a great decision.
It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I like it.
And I want to thank you for the rain barrel project. That was amazing
It
and
looked
fun,
fun.
and I think you should do it every year. And
We
do
went
something different every year. and It
Yeah.
was fun. It
Well,
was
so-
great.
I want one next year.
Yeah, well, I bid on one and I'll get it.
But yeah, get with Greg for a project proposal form, and then once that's all filled out, can you get it emailed out to all of us, and then we can put it on the next agenda? Yeah, can we do that?
Yep, that sounds great.
So, Caleb, I just had a comment. I think that the Natural Resources District, you guys are like really community minded, and you always come up with some really good ideas, and I just really appreciate it. And then, how did you guys, I'd never even heard of a story walk prior to this, so where did you guys find the idea, or where did you?
That's all Erin, she found it.
I was talking with Minda Ellis that works at the Children's Library about potential projects she could use our education grant for, and found that one and was talking with her about that. Vince Brockens was looking for ways to get people to visit the trails more often, and I thought, you know, that worked for both of those things. The library could use that to take kids out, and people would take their kids out to the trails to go visit the school.
So Vince Brockens is on board with it. I mean, they're fine with this too.
We haven't approached them
Okay.
yet. We wanted to come to the council first and, you know, and kind of work through those channels, since, you know, it would be, what we're considering would, you know, be at city parks. And Aaron and I talked a lot about it. We talked with the board, and the bike park seemed like a really neat opportunity because it's in development, and this is a fun thing that we could plan into it, hopefully in a safe manner, you know, that could just be one more draw to that park. And so, so we haven't talked with Vince Brockens yet, but we will approach them as well, and you know, make sure that if they're okay with it, that we can do it in a manner that's not conflicting with other uses of the park. So
If we can get that proposal form, maybe we can invite Vince Brockens and you guys back to the next meeting, so then we're all here.
yep, we could do that. Sure.
The community foundation grant that I'm applying for is due on the 16th, I believe. So I guess you're asking if the city of Newcastle can be considered a collaborating partner as we're applying for that grant. We have to list the groups that we're collaborating with. So that's kind of one of the reasons we're here tonight, is to ask if you can.
So you need a motion so that you can move forward with the grant process.
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you're okay with that, while we work out the details with everything else.
I would love to make the motion that we approve, what was the specifics? I'm sorry, you stated them.
The
Collaboration, essentially.
lists the city of Newcastle as a collaborating partner for the Wyoming Community Foundation grant. been appointed for.
Okay, so I move that the city of Newcastle is a partner in the
Backyard park story walk.
backyard park story walk.
Second.
A motion and a second, any further discussion?
I think this is fantastic for the community, and I would like to see, I mean, is it kind of holding us up too that the Rockets aren't like involved in, or was that like a continuing part of the project?
I don't think so. I think we can find a way to work together on it, so, you know, but we'll definitely talk with them as well and see what their thoughts are too, so.
Well, I think it's a great idea, and I'd love to see it move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll reach out and see if they want to be collaborators as well on it, because I think it would be important to have them listed as well, you know, as involved as they are and, you know, in planning and development of the park. So we'll reach out to them too, and I have some connections there too. So.
No. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Do
all
you need
very
a
much.
letter from us? Erin?
I guess if the Wyoming Community Foundation calls for me or something, just give us a paper.
Okay. Thank you.
And Greg, you have my email.
Yes,
You
I'll
can
shoot
share
it
that
out
with
to
you.
you.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Moving on to number 2, Douglas Emerald, judge. It's weird not saying judge. Municipal court.
Thank you. Got a call back at the beginning of the summer and picked up the phone. It was Tom Voss on the phone. And he had some questions about municipal court. Some I could answer, and some I couldn't, and some I wouldn't. And so as we got talking, we found out that maybe I've never been in to talk with about municipal court, what a municipal court does. So we made an appointment for me to come down and visit with you all about what municipal court is doing, since you are in charge of it in some ways and not in others. Basically, this is an unusual night tonight because we have all of the branches of government represented in one room. We have the executive branch represented by the mayor, the legislative branch represented by the council, and the judicial branch represented by the municipal court. It's also unusual in governments around the world that those 3 branches are a good enough idea that they go all the way from the highest levels down to, with all due respect, our lowest levels of government. And so we are operating under that, although at the municipal court and the municipal level generally, we get a little more intermixed. You know, the legislative is not as pure, the executive, the council has a job in administering, the mayor has some job in directing legislation, those kinds of things. The municipal court still is quite a bit more separate than that. And so I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about basically what courts are. And municipal courts are a minor jurisdiction court in Wyoming. We have a very limited jurisdiction, and it is to the decisions having to do with city ordinances. And everything we consider is a city ordinance. We're governed by the same code of ethics as all the judges in the state of Wyoming. We're subject to the Judicial Supervisory Committee, just like all of the courts in Wyoming. But we only focus on municipal ordinances. So within that realm, occasionally we will see something come across our desk that is properly a circuit court matter, has to do with the state law rather than an ordinance. We need to take those out of our system. So understanding that the court is that, I basically will give you a short primer on this like I would be giving my government class, and I know you probably all know this anyway, but just so we recall. Basically, courts have only one job, and that is to decide the case. We don't operate without a case to decide, and we are required to decide the case. We're like the field goal kicker. We come in at the end and we do our thing, and that's it. And so the court's only job is to make decisions. And how do we make those decisions? We make them by applying principles of what's called due process. And we're governed in municipal court the same as they are in federal courts, the state courts, and right down the line by this concept of due process that you find in the Fifth Amendment. And due process has only about 3 elements to it. One is notice. The person has to know what they're charged with, what they're told that they've violated. They have to, number 2, have an opportunity to be heard. In other words, they have to have an opportunity to have a hearing and to tell their side of the story if they want to. And number 3, they have to be heard by an impartial magistrate. So everything that we do in municipal court, from Stacy and Becky's position, all the way through, has to do with giving the citizens of Newcastle and the people who are visitors here and run into the court those 3 things: notice, an opportunity to be heard, and by an impartial magistrate. So notice has to do with citations. When you're unfortunate enough to get a citation, which I have on several occasions, that's your notice. The opportunity to be heard means you get to come in and plead guilty or not guilty to that matter. A lot of the time in municipal court, people plead guilty by simply paying the fine. And that's allowed in municipal court, which if it was a felony in district court, it wouldn't be. So a lot of times people will just pay the fine. But then if they plead not guilty, they have a right to have a trial. And at that trial, the impartial magistrate in city court is typically me. Or if I'm prejudiced in the case some way, a different judge that we would have to appoint. And so that impartial magistrate part means that if Lucille Dumbrell comes to me and goes, I heard that such and such, and what? And I'm like, no, do not tell me anything about that, because my job is to remain absolutely impartial. And that goes for another couple of things. One of the things Tom and I talked about was there might be a time when the council would really love the judge's input on what they ought to do legislatively. I can't give it to you. It's not my job. And in fact, I'm prohibited by judicial ethics from trying to influence your legislative decisions. I'm also prohibited by judicial ethics, unless someone is a defendant in front of my court, from trying to influence police officers to do certain things or charge certain matters. I don't start those cases. Those cases are brought to me. So if you think of it, basically, if you're making legislation, you are a proactive branch. You're looking forward in time, trying to decide what's best. If you're administering the city, you're an active branch. We're a reactive branch. We have to get a case before we have any say in what goes on in it. And so we have to wait until that case comes to us. And remaining impartial also means that if there's a possible ordinance on the table that the council could vote on and they ask, well, Judge, is that constitutional? I won't say until I get the case in front of the court and hear both sides of it. And so constitutionality, even though municipal courts decide constitutionality, it is only decided in the court context. We can't give advice going forward. Typically also policy matters. I might think personally it's a good idea for the council to do this or that, but that's not my business. No one elected me. No one elected Mr. Hughes. He advises the council. I decide the cases. And that's simply where that is at. So all the administrative things that the court does, the taking of citations, ultimately revolve around those kinds of things. And we do many things, actually, Stacy and Becky and now Heather, right?
Amber. Amber.
Amber, yeah. I'm just getting to know Amber. Amber, they handle an awful lot of that stuff that I never see, the administrative things. But they are still, when they're doing the administrative things, they're trying to make sure that everyone gets fair notice, that everyone gets an opportunity to be heard by an impartial magistrate. So that's what we're doing. And in that context, we only enforce the ordinances that you adopt. Now you say, well, there are a lot of state traffic laws that the municipal judge enforces. That's true, but those are the ones that you as a council or your predecessors have adopted from the state statutes. So if there's a traffic ordinance that has not been adopted, we don't have the jurisdiction to handle those matters. And I think that about covers it. And now I'd just like to stand for any questions that you might have about what it is that the court does and what your concerns are, if you have any, and anything else you'd just like to know. I may not be able to answer everything, but I'll do my best. Anything? Yeah.
As a legislative body, what is the maximum fine that we can put in an ordinance?
$750. And you can provide jail up to 6 months, but on offenses that you provide jail for, the court is required to give jury trials to those individuals who have the possibility of jail. So you can courts do several things in that regard, or councils do that I've seen. I've seen some councils that have every ordinance has a penalty along with it that they've legislated and decided to pass. Other councils simply say, for the violation of any city ordinance, it is up to a $750 fine. In that case, the court then has the jurisdiction and the discretion to set that fine. And when those exist, what we typically do is, in conjunction with the police department, we get a bond schedule. Because a vast majority of these can just be paid at the counter if that's what they want to do. And so we'll say, yeah, if we have up to $750 on this, but $100 fine and $25 in costs will suffice. We'll put that on the bond schedule. If you want to pay that at the counter, it's the same as a guilty plea. But if you want to plead not guilty, we'll have a trial. So, but you can do that about any way that you'd like to do it, and government can fill you out on what those possibilities are.
Have you ever conducted a jury trial for any of the ordinance violations?
I have been a municipal judge now for, coming up on 20 years in one place or another. I have never conducted a jury trial, period. Now, when I was a municipal judge in Gillette, we had the possibility in several kinds of cases for jury trials, but we just never seemed to get there. Because typically it was they had a lawyer if they were wanting a jury trial, and if they had a lawyer, they usually found some way to work it out before they got to that point.
Have you ever administered a $750 maximum fine?
Oh, yes. Yeah, pretty regularly. And one of the things that I guess I should also respond to is the court has a certain amount of coercive power as well. And the way we accomplish this kind of coercive power is typically to give a higher fine, and then I'm talking my personal practices, give a higher fine than I would probably give in the case, but condition that fine, suspend a large part of that fine on the condition that certain things are done. It's a lot like a probation without a probation officer or a probation document.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today. and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.
It's a lot like a probation without a probation officer or a probation document. So that happens fairly often, and that's one of the methods municipal courts can use to get people to comply, but only after we've found them guilty in a trial.
Have you seen a downtick in the amount of municipal cases that you've had in our community since we haven't had an ordinance officer?
Not really. We got a little spate of them for a while there. When the ordinance officer was pretty busy, we saw quite a few of them. I still did one just the other day, and I think they're pretty constant, typically. I hate to reference Gillette because it's a whole different thing, but over there, of course, they have 2 or 3 community ordinance officers, and that was a fairly large part of the court's practice over there. Our practice over here is more traffic enforcement, probably at a higher percentage than anything else.
I remember Becky having stacks of traffic enforcement type tickets on her desk.
Yeah, there is a lot of traffic enforcement in Gillette or in Newcastle, more in Gillette, but there's a lot of traffic enforcement in Newcastle, and I'd say that's the municipal court's biggest thing. And oftentimes we're dealing with people out of town in that circumstance. You might get a nasty letter from one of them sometimes. And here's where that comes in. We go, you've got a right to have a trial. But that right to have a trial, if you're in New Jersey, means you're going to have to come to Newcastle to have a trial. We'll do everything we can to work around you if to get that done. And we've had people come from very long distances to have a trial in municipal court because they feel it's a matter of principle. And so, but a lot of those people are just kind of out of luck. And after they hear that option, they say, well, we'll have to try to work something out to make it work.
So what about people that just pay their fine?
People that pay their
Pay
fine.
their fine the next time, and then pay their fine the next time.
Well, people that pay their fine, if the fine is just
It's the same thing.
Yeah. What will happen with the police department typically is that the person will be a pay your fine kind of thing. And then it's not my decision for that. But they have a spot on the citation that they can make it a must appear. And then when they make it a must appear, that defendant is required to come into court and plead guilty or not guilty. And when they do that, once they've pled guilty or had their trial and been found guilty, of course, if they're found not guilty, that's the end of that. But if they're found guilty, then I will look at their record and try to figure out some kind of an approach that will enforce the matter. And typically where we see that is in dog cases, where very often it will be, after several times they'll come into court and the court's decision will be, okay, this time it's a $500 fine and we're going to suspend $400 of it on condition that you do not have another violation, those kinds of things. Or in the case of vicious dogs, sometimes we've said on condition that that dog will not be in the city at all. And we've had to dispose of dogs. Your ordinance gives the court that power to dispose of dogs. And so that's probably our main coercive method there. The other thing that you should understand is, and this is a technical legal issue, it is that in some matters like the garbage and those kinds of things, those particular ordinances are cumulative in nature. And what that means is that, and you'll see it right in your ordinance, that every day that the problem is not fixed is a separate violation. And we're the city officials, you know, the ordinance officer or the police officer, were they so inclined, and I imagine the court wouldn't let this get too out of hand, they can write every single day a citation until it's fixed. That's the nature of what we call nuisance law in the law, is that as long as the nuisance is continuing, the remedies can be, can be cumulative. And that's an extreme situation, but it's within the realms of possibility. And those decisions have to be made by the executive branch, the police officers, the ordinance enforcement officers, those folks. And then when they come in front of the court, we'll deal with them as they come along. That answered your question? Yeah. And then like a traffic violation, those have a way of taking care of themselves. And then the other thing you asked is, what if they appear and appear and appear? And you're probably, the flip side of that is, what if they don't appear? And if they don't appear, our practice is to send them a letter that says you've obviously missed your court date, you must have forgotten us or something. You need to get in touch with us immediately. We'll send that out. About 2 weeks. If we haven't heard from them, we'll issue a bench warrant. And we issue a bench warrant whether they're local or whether they're from New Jersey. If they're local, we have a real shot of arresting them, in which case I get a call and I try to get them out of jail usually. But I will get that call. Even worse though is if they're from New Jersey and we issue a bench warrant, the next time they get picked up or the next time they go to renew their driver's license, they don't have a driver's license. And so that's pretty drastic enforcement as well.
I just want the weeds cut.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
How many citations can we give and then
I
turn off their water?
And I don't have an opinion on that until they're found guilty of not cutting the weeds. Then I can weigh in on having the weeds cut. Up to that time, yeah, you guys will have to figure that one out yourselves.
How often do you meet?
We will get together once a month, and we'll schedule all the trials on that day as well as any arraignments that we have. And then I'll come over for that. Once in a long while, I'll come over sometime in the middle to handle something or another. And then basically after that, it's being available on the phone. I'm basically on call, and the one kind of emergency situation I'm on call for is that has ever come up is that, hey, we arrested somebody and they're in jail. So that's usually it. And we try not to keep them there long. That's usually a big enough wake-up call to get them to court the next time when that happens. So, all right, I sure appreciate the opportunity, and thank you. The other thing that I should say is that unlike all the other judges and courts in the state, municipal judges serve at the pleasure of the mayor and the council. So I appreciate you appointing me these many years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to number 3 under citizens business for Wyoming County Freedom Festival.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. My name is Stanley Jasinski. I want to start by saying it's kind of a unique situation for me because following a judge, I'm much more accustomed to coming before a judge. So I want to start off by saying, Your Honor, I'm not guilty, whatever it is. I'm a change man. All right, so actually I'm here as the chairman for the Weston County Freedom Festival Committee, and in way to invite the city council and the mayor to our 9/11 event this year, which is going to be September 11th. It's a week from Wednesday. The Weston County Freedom Festival Committee this year is working in partnership with the Newcastle Wyoming Veterans Memorial Committee And we'd like to present honor our heroes, memorialize our fallen for this year's 23rd anniversary of 9/11. The event will be held, as I said, September 11th at the future site for the the Newcastle Veterans War Memorial. That's at Pinnacle Bank. The time is 5 to 6. Pinnacle Bank will be sponsoring hamburgers and chips and drinks or water anyway, from 5 to 6 for food and fellowship. Our memorial program will run from 6 to 7. And we are going to do a flag holding ceremony, and we'll be just doing some other honor around the 9/11 and the events that took place following 9/11. Again, we're hoping you all join us here, and bring a chair because there are no chairs there, and we'd like to see you there. If there's any questions, we can answer.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Now I got a flyer for all the council.
Sammy, thank you.
I'm sure.
Go ahead, I'll get a copy. All right, thank you,
I'll,
Sheriff.
I'll do a Jen Sark and circle back. There you go.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you there.
All right, moving on to citizens' business and driving, we have Miller Mechanical request for plumber license. The following request, new plumbing license, contractor is Miller Mechanical, master plumber is Leonard B. Miller, journeyman plumber is Jeremy Miller. All fees have been paid, copies of their license and proof of insurance and bond have been provided for 2024, 2025. A copy of the Wyoming plumbing license is attached.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the plumbing license for Miller Mechanical.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Moving on to old business, number one, we had a rate study, and unmetered water. So last week, Tuesday, we had, Greg give a presentation, to the public in regards to the water rate analysis. I don't know if you wanna touch base on it, since we got some new people in the room. And then there was questions in regards to water that was unmetered. So I got information on the unmetered.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The rate analysis, the presentation I did was for the council to give them a better understanding of what was involved with rate analysis, what all went into it, and what the program's recommendations were. It was very comprehensive restructuring of our rates. It wasn't just a matter of looking at our rates and saying what we're going to charge. The bottom line is there is no bottom line. Because of past events that have happened, this council is now responsible for making some rather large decisions about the rates. What all went into the rate analysis was all of our operations and maintenance costs, focused heavily on the capital improvements projects because we're in desperate need to get some work done. We also planned all of our vehicle, equipment replacements, the process of that rate analysis. We chose infrastructure projects because of continual failures, their criticality to the system, as well as other factors. We didn't just throw a map in the dark and say we're going to fix this line this time. We really looked into it quite extensively. Unfortunately, we didn't have a master plan by that time, so some of it may change, but not the total capital improvements For example, Rodeo Street, Sheridan Street is one of the projects we want to complete. It's a water infrastructure project to replace the water and sewer mains under those streets. The master plan, project number 5, actually extended it past Frontier, Rodeo Street and Sheridan Street, and took it to Pine Grade, Cascade, before to Stampede. So there are quite a few of the projects that were in the master plan, just not the full master plan project. Problem is we have aging infrastructure. Most of the lines were installed in the 1960s. Because in 1949, the city of Newcastle purchased enough pipe to replace all our steel lines with new cast iron lines. They figured the pipe would last 50 years, no problem. The problem is by 1960, they were fixing 3 leaks a day. Our soil composition corrodes metal pipe, so it wasn't going to survive anyway. They developed the first master plan in 1962. Within 10 years, they replaced all the cast iron with AC pipe. AC pipe in Newcastle lasts around 50 to 60 years, so we set the useful life of AC pipe at 55 years. Right now, we're aging out of all of our infrastructure, all of our water mains. Prior to 1949, we could not find any records about the sewer systems. The majority of towns installed prior to that. We looked at the age of, estimating the age of the pipes to actual newspaper articles more than anything, to try and estimate how old they were. And then we built a capital improvements plan to work on this problem. This is all bundled up into the rate analysis. We looked at our current loans. Our debt service right now is $66,802 a year. That's what we're paying on infrastructure loans currently. With the rate analysis, one thing we found is debt payments at year 3 will go up to about $187,000. At year 10, we're looking at $1.6 million in loans. As the years go by, we will manage to increase the with the rate analysis, we're increasing incrementally each year, not by much. What he recommended was 4% per year. We do now have a capital improvements plan, 10 years worth. We have a 10-year equipment vehicle replacement plan for all 3 water, sewer, and solid waste. As far as our pump stations and control stations, we have a 10-year plan, replacement plan for all of that. The rate analysis also includes building up our reserve funds. We discussed the funding opportunities and how we intend to pay for it. Unfortunately, EPA and some of the other federal agencies are not giving out as many grants. They want systems to pay for their own system, so they're doing loans. Percentage of increase varies. He did look quite a bit at the affordability index of our water rates to keep them fair. Our index, we're finished. I can't find it. Water was just below 1% of the AMHI. EPA recommends 2% of the AMHI. The community's AMHI should go towards their water system. We looked at the different models they had put together. And I went through several of the recommendations he had. Some of the things we've already done, the declining per thousand rate structure is what we used to have. Now we just have a flat 1,000 rate structure. Continuing with the sewer averaging for residents in the summer months. He recommended changes to the basic service. And what else? Then he gave us charts. you all. Council, the ones we gave you tonight are the latest updated ones. The day after the last meeting, we still have the old ones. These are the ones we received that day and didn't get a chance to review. So the table 18 is what you want to keep on hand.
We're gonna set up a town hall for this project.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is getting the information out. If the council chooses to go forward with its great recommendations, it's still the choice of the council. Do I recommend following his plan? Yes, because currently we have $46 million worth of infrastructure projects. We just had a meeting tonight for the landfill 1 remediation. We've got landfill 2 closure. We've got tank 2 improvements to make. Tank 1, which is 90 years old. The tank on Highway 85 to the north. It's needing replaced, and I believe there's a council member here that can back my need for that, because he was wondering all the patches on it the last time. At some point, we have to plan these out, and then build them into a budget, and go from there.
We still recommend the first 2,000.
He did not.
You know, I thought you
It was a flat rate, base rate, with a per thousand price after that. No free water.
and you guys are meeting tomorrow.
Whoever is meeting with Greg tomorrow, just to kind of go over the presented, so we have an idea of what was done, what make the meeting.
So we can take over the decision next week.
I think it's just gonna be more information. This is something that's long overdue. If you got the rate study that's done, unfortunate that we have to get to this point because of having a raised rate, but if we want to keep repairing things that are failing within this community, we have to do something.
It was my understanding that we were gonna have a town hall prior to our decision to raise the rates.
I thought you said it.
That's-
Yeah, okay.
That's the council's decision, as we wish.
I think I would like to have a town hall prior to raising the rates so that everybody's exposed to the information prior to us making this big decision. So public information is paramount in this, I think.
And I believe we discussed having at least 2 of them, if not more.
Yeah, 2 for sure. To kind of give them the next one of what's coming.
Do we have them out at the senior center? And halls?
We just have to get dates to the councilman.
As long as it's not booked for something else.
Yeah. And then another suggestion I'd make, Madam Mayor, is that we put the public notice out on some of the Facebook groups, because the last time we had angry people in the council chambers in regard to rates, that was one of the suggestions that our constituents had made.
The new store. This is the one-stop shop. We have a pharmacy. We have a bootlegger's liquor. The deli, the food that you can get at a lunchtime is so amazing. The coffee shop. Certain Friday mornings, there's 30 people sitting here in all these chairs. This is the hub for people to come and visit, have their coffee, have their donuts. It's amazing what this area has done. Totally amazing.
We put the public notice out on some of the Facebook groups, because the last time we had angry people in the council chambers in regard to rates, that was one of the suggestions that our constituents had made, because they didn't feel like they had gotten the information prior to the ordinance being changed.
We'll make sure it's in the paper.
Thank you.
My recommendation would be like the last week of September, so we have a couple of weeks to get the information out. Advertise advertise in the paper, social media is a really good one to do with it. What's that? The 23rd through the 27th for the first one. September 23rd through the 27th.
Okay, look at it, let's go for it.
I'll be going.
Let's see, I would recommend the 24th.
Can you check and see what dates available and then, city clerk will come?
I can check.
24th. What time?
What's council's pleasure? After 5 for sure.
I'd say 6.
6 o'clock. I would say give it another 2 weeks and have a second one. Which would put us before the second council meeting in October.
Before?
Maybe before that, I would say 15th or 16th of October.
24th of September.
24th of September, I don't have availability that day.
You do not, are you thinking the
Not on
first
the
week
24th.
or the second week of October?
Probably the second week of October.
I think the 15th is going to be our council meeting because the 14th is a holiday. I think that.
No, the October meeting.
The October meeting, first October meeting will be the 7th.
Yeah.
The second
That's
October
good for
meeting
next
will be the 21st.
So you're saying the 8th or 9th? Or that week?
Either that week or the next week. The 15th, okay, 6 o'clock.
The other thing that was brought up last week during this special meeting was non-metered water use. So I did some looking, and there are several places that do not pay for water besides the question about the fire department, and that was the Newcastle Housing Authority, football field, and the pool. Pool, their water bill comes to the city, and then it's basically transferred. The city pays the pool water, which is very low with what I'm looking at from the beginning of January, which is only $264.55.
I mean, they don't change that water at all.
And then the 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 meters over at Roundup at the Newcastle Housing Authority. And in the month of August, they use 4,954 gallons. And that's just for the lawn, right? And then the football field is not metered, correct?
It has a meter, but it's non-revenue meter that doesn't work.
Didn't you say something about the meter is antiquated and you were gonna put it in some kind of museum exhibit or something?
Well, we definitely could do that too. We're already putting one from the Downey Mill up for the problem with the meter is with location and stuff like that, it would end up being a $50,000 to $60,000 project to get it replaced. The new lane, it's literally attached to AC pipe on both sides. So we can't just cut the pipe and lay it in where the existing one is because the new ones are longer. We'd end up having to replace the vault in the process. And it'd be an expensive project.
How much is the water that we use?
If we know the sprinkler head size and some information like that, we can make a educated guess.
It'd be cheaper to do nothing.
Well, for a non-revenue meter, I don't know if it's council's pleasure, I'll do it. For a non-revenue meter, I can't see spending $50,000 to $60,000 just to know how much water they're using.
Yeah, I don't care.
When it comes to the fire hall, they do have a water bill that they pay. It's for the usage of kitchen, the bathrooms, some of the filling of the trucks, correct? But where they fill the trucks outside is not metered and not paid for. And I know there was questions in regards to that. So I called around to other fire departments and all of them have a normal water bill that either the town or the city basically transfers to out of the general fund to the water fund. Those departments do not pay for that. It's not coming out of their budget, just on a transfer from the city. And then they do not charge to fill their trucks to fight fires. And we don't currently, and I personally don't feel that we should either. But I know it was brought up. So.
Of the things that we subsidize, I mean, in my opinion, the fire department plays a really important role in our community. And I don't know why we would charge the fire department to fill up their water tenders, especially when we have 17 fires in 17 days in the surrounding area that encroached on people's homes and livelihoods. I think it's money well spent in the sake of public interest.
We gave them the money in the first place.
Yeah, it's part of their budget.
So I know if we were going to look into changing anything, we need to look at all these other entities as well. I just wanted to bring that up. I thought a lot about it in the last week and I was just to see what other volunteer fire departments and towns were doing. And I mean, even though Upton said most of the fires have been out in the county, they're still protecting and saving, the fire that could come into their town. So.
And those people that live in the county are also the people that come in and frequent our establishments in our city.
And there's a lot of ranchers out there that use their own taps and wells out there to fill up trucks and help with these fires too. So I think it's definitely a community effort. And I would like to keep it the way that it is when it comes to the fire department and filling the water trucks for the city and county.
I've been on the department for many years. I know the guys have been diligent about filling in certain areas. Obviously, tankers and that, trying to fill them through a 2-inch line in the hall. And not very often if they get filled. A lot of times when we bring the trucks back from the city fire, we're filling the tank back up off the hydrant at the fire. The question then we get into if we started saying we're gonna charge the water at the fire hall to fill up a truck or a tanker because they came back. Everyone's tired by the time they get back working 16 hours out on a fire all day. You come back to fill up that tanker, put it back in the hall so you can go home and go to bed. So we, to me, I think this is a little pennies pieces on that we are given to our community and everyone else in the county. For fire protection bill.
Anything you guys want to add?
The only thing I'd add is a lot of times like the brush trucks and stuff can get filled out in the hall, which is, like you said, is metered. Not all the time, but a lot of times they do. Well, when meter, or that is metered, then everything that's in the hall.
And I know you guys, somebody I talked to said that you guys use that inside one mostly during the winter.
Mainly, yeah. We don't use the hydrant in the winter very often unless we're on a fire or, you
On
know,
the ice skating rink.
yeah.
Madam Mayor, the domestic water meter is separate from the truck bay as well. So the truck bay goes through just mainly the trucks and blows some other stuff out. The domestic water is on a separate meter. The lawn meter is on that. Lawn water by meters. So there's actually 4 water meters. That's Yep.
I really appreciate all the sacrifices you guys made over those 17 fires. It's been some long hours
Excellent volunteers.
and saved everything, huh?
So far. That's it.
No. Okay, well, thank you for all your hard work and dedication and volunteering.
Thank you.
Anything else on the rate study or unmetered water? Moving on to new business, I would like to recognize ahead of our time the BLM building and the Woody Food Center for all their facelifts on their buildings. They all look really nice. BLM building is right. No committee, is there any committee report? Moving on to department head, city attorney Douglas Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't believe I have anything to report.
Any questions for city attorney?
Do most of our ordinances have a fixed fee in the ordinance?
So some of them have a fixed fee. Frankly, what usually ends up happening, and I think this has been used to great effect, and Doug, who just left, what ends up happening, especially for junk ordinances or nuisance ordinances, is he says, I found you guilty, and I'm gonna assess a $500 fee, which is within the purview of what the ordinance allows. Well, $500 fee for, the junk ordinance is relatively high, but he suspends it in, the hope that by this certain date, the defendant will clean up their yard, for instance. And that seemed to actually work really well. So there's a little bit of a little bit of change in terms of what the judge does with the fees, but we usually set to $750. Some of them are lower. It just depends on what we're talking about.
We just do straight across the board, all fines up to $750.
I mean, they can go up to $750, I guess. If you were to, if you wanted to put the max $750 for someone not, say, mowing their lawn, I wouldn't recommend that, but
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
They can start at the.
But if they don't mow it, and he's getting citations,
Mhm.
And they keep paying them.
and they keep paying the citation.
So I guess my confusion on that is what are we talking about specifically? Just the lawn cutting and the
I don't know, just the
Because
mess.
a lot of them, if it's a second offense, they basically are raised in terms of how much the fine goes to. Now, I can't speak on the ordinance without looking at it, obviously, but there's sort of an accessory there, so.
Would you please look at that ordinance and about the junk and the things and
I just
see,
think we need.
see where we are
Yeah.
and where we might could go to
And how-
match what the judge was saying.
How far we
Give
can
him
go.
some leeway about doing his extortion.
No, but I just think that Newcastle is where it is because we've allowed it to get there. We haven't enforced, and how far can we enforce?
We're gonna find out.
Turn off the water.
I think you get in big trouble for that.
The weeds will still.
That's a health problem.
I gotta
Well, then they better pay them.
I gotta say that we better cut our own weeds before we tell other people to cut theirs.
My weeds are cut.
No, I'm talking about the city.
Oh.
You're right.
If you're gonna tell somebody else to cut their weeds, you better have your own cut.
That's a pretty good point there, Councilman.
And I welcome anybody to drive around and look at city property.
One of the hot button topics about this too is, one of the complaints I've heard from a lot of citizens around town is that we're not consistent in the way that we enforce our ordinances. So they feel like we enforce the ordinances with some parts of the community, but then we don't enforce the same ordinances in other parts. And I saw it a lot when I still worked on the city crew, when we had to go and clean up the right-of-ways and the alleys in Frontier Edition. There was a lot of people that were really upset that we were in there doing that work because they didn't feel like we were doing that in other parts of town. So one of the things that we need to start doing in the city is enforcing our ordinances the same across the whole town. And finding out which ordinances are enforceable and which ordinances in fact are not.
So I know that I've been getting a lot of text messages or complaints because they have started enforcing ordinances, but they've started in one area and haven't even gotten to the next area. So that's why they think it's not consistent. I think we just need to give them some time with what the new plan is that they're doing. And make sure that it's staying consistent. But with them just restarting, a lot of people, well, they have it over there, they haven't gotten over there yet. So I think we need to look at that too. In the past, yes, that was an issue, but they kind of have a plan from what I'm told, but the chief's not here today, so I think that's something we can talk about next council and see how that plan is looking. Anything else for city? City clerk treasurer, Stacey Howard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that all the council members received the email and then a copy of that email for the LGLP vacancy seats that are coming up. If you choose to nominate anybody or anybody would like to run for those seats, you can let me know and I will get submitted. That's all I have.
Is there anybody on the council that wishes to serve on the LGLP? That was a good phrase. You can tell it the national LGLP committee. Is there anybody that's interested on the council currently?
Say that's enough.
I don't think that there's going to be any nominations from the council.
But Stacy, thank you for your notice.
Moving on to Public Works Supervisor Grace Stumpf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Indulge me on the presentation ready for the council for the red copper road commissions.
This looks like it's gonna take a long time.
Hopefully not.
I'm just kidding.
Yes, Tom, you have to listen to me.
Happily.
Well, is it gonna take you a minute to set up? Because I can, have terms against the city.
Right.
It's September 3rd, 2024.
Madam Mayor, I move we play, make a claim against the city.
Later.
The plan, yeah.
I second.
It's a popcorn, but geez.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Did you say you have a report today? How did you say you have a report?
This is.
If I'm wrong on any of this, Marty Ertman can sue me. Let her have the burden of doing that right now. If any of what I'm saying is not true, she can sue me and prove that in court. But I had been frustrated by this sort of lack of accountability when the public reacted poorly to a newspaper story about commissioner actions. She would change the story and say that that's not really how it went down. What was your, I mean, I got out of it and then you started covering that beat. What, did that frustration, did you have that same experience leading up to the ultimate frustration of filing the secret ballot lawsuit to put a stop to that sort of thing?
100%. It's hands down the most frustrating situation I've probably ever dealt with through working at the newspaper.
Oh, I like the water.
One of the other projects we've been working on for the last couple of years is the lead and copper road divisions. This was we're here to present to the council, the decision makers on some of the stuff involved with this. The US EPA, through a presidential executive order, mandated that all public water systems complete a series of rules called the lead and copper rule revisions. Within that, lead and copper rule revision is items like water service line inventory of all the service lines in the entire town, along with other requirements. Because the government likes their acronyms so much, here are some of the definitions of some of the acronyms you'll hear. We deal with them all the time, so it's not that big. If you don't know what one is, let me know. So where does the lead come from? Lead comes from several sources. The main source in Flint, Michigan was lead was leaching from the water service lines. EPA started a lead ban in solder in 1986 and implemented it by 1989. Another good place to get lead from is fixtures, plumbing fixtures. First lead and copper rule we have to meet. We're on we have to meet a 95th percentile, so 95% of all of our samples have to be below the MCL. MCL is a maximum contaminant level set by EPA. Currently, the last three samplings we did, we were way above the 95th percentile. Matter of fact, we only had one sample above the MCL 6 years ago. We sampled twice since then, in the same place, both sampling shut below the MCL. Normally, we're on reduced monitoring, which means we sample every 3 years. Currently, because of the change in our source by adding well 5, EPA has set aside annual lead and copper sampling until such time as they see fit. We have a site sampling plan. We have dedicated places that we requested citizens to fill our bottles. We cannot collect these samples ourselves. They have to be done by the customers because they're a first draw sample. The water has to sit for 6 hours and then be drawn immediately. Well, I'm not going into somebody's house to draw water at 4 a.m. Sorry, they can take care of that. All the samples have to be done in the buildings, and after that, after we receive the results of the samples, we have to send letters to the customers who took the samples. As part of the sampling plan, there's 3 different tiers to current tier system is to identify the at-risk buildings, places that are more likely to have lead issues. Because of this, we will be doing some changing to our site sampling plans. In Newcastle, we have to take 20 samples based on population. We also have 5 alternate locations we sample from in case we have a sample that doesn't have enough water or something like that. One of the big changes in the new rule versus the old rule, they went from 15 parts per billion to 10 parts per billion for the MCL.
How did that happen? Is that executive order too?
Yeah. Well, it was built into the. There's another portion of this rule that is changing. We will currently be adding all the schools, child care facilities, and this includes home health or home daycares. Another part of the rule is making this public. Giving the information to the public and making it available. We can do it by spreadsheets, we can do it by maps, we can do all kinds of different things. What we decided to do was utilize our GIS. So all these places, we've identified their service lines. We have all the information entered. And if somebody clicks on this one, we can tell what their water service line and what that water service line is. This really came about because of Flint, Michigan, 1924, or 24, 26, or 14, 16 years. They had terrible issues with water quality, and they were being ignored. Nobody wanted to pay attention to it. Nobody thought it was real. The bottles pulled over some of the evidence from some of the claims at Flint, Michigan. Flint changed their source for their water. They picked up a different source instead of buying it from where they were. The chemical makeup of the water changed, which eventually led to the water actually leaching lead out of the lead service lines we had in the ground. Some of the health effects of lead, children are very susceptible to it. Flint, Michigan, they really documented all the issues health-wise. Kids really had a lot of issues, behavioral problems, lower IQs, and learning disabilities. Lead and copper rule revision requires an inventory, like I said, of all water services. The deadline for this inventory is coming up quick, and we have to certify that we've done it. DEQ has hired an engineering firm to help all the public water systems if they wish with their inventories. Engineering associates, the engineers we actually work with several times, are helping us finalize our inventory. The changes to ownership of the line is what's big. Starting with water main, we have to inventory the tap. So in cities with copper lines with a difficulty to connect to a water main, they use lead in this connector. They may turn this into copper or whatever. But a lot of times the lead service line moves all the way to the house. Normally, the system owns to the property line, like we do. EPA wants us to know what this part is as well. The customer side up and into the building. They don't care about the plumbing building. They're plumbing inside the building, other than what comes through the wall. 40 main types of pipe, PVC, plastic, PE pipe, lead, copper, galvanized steel pipe. Lead, you can actually take a penny and make an indentation in the pipe. That's how you know it's lead. You scratch it, it turns colored like copper, then it's copper. If you scratch a galvanized pipe, you won't indent it all. You'll just make a mark. Part of the initial inventory, if we cannot prove what the line is, we're required to notify the customer. So, I'm trying to remember, your line's been replaced. John says, John's line, we don't know what it is yet. So, we will have to send a letter telling you we do not know what that line is. We'll be sending these letters out after the initial inventory has been completed. We must also develop a plan to replace the lead service lines and galvanized lines required replacement. A lot of times field inspections is how we figured most of this out. Fortunately, years ago I had started a spreadsheet and started recording what our service lines were, where they were, what type of pipe they were, without knowing this was coming. So we do have quite a bit of work done already. A lot of it is just transferring the information we already had onto the Region 8 EPA required spreadsheet. That's how we determined we have 577 out of 1,582 services yet to identify what the pipe is.
You gotta do that before October 16th?
No. The October 16th deadline is for the initial inventory. So we do not have to know what every line is, but we have to have a plan in place by then to investigate what they are. The other option is inside building inspections. We're sending out letters this week for the customers to fill out. If we get these back, we'll have the information we need, and we can identify the type of line that's coming through the foundation to the floor.
So you're sending them out to that 577?
We're saying we have to send them out to all 1,582 taps.
Oh, you do?
Yes. We've been working on this for the last couple of weeks. All we really want to know is what this pipe is before the valve.
So I might interject really quick.
Tyrell knows about as much about this as I do.
I have to do some of this for my work. WireRiskit.com is a website that the state has paid an engineering firm called HDR to build a template for the inventories, and then also to provide public information to the entire state of Wyoming. And last I checked, I was the only person in Newcastle who actually went in their crawl space and took a picture of my service line and uploaded it so that they have that information, right? So that's what the letter is probably going to inform you of.
Yeah, and the WireRiskit is where we got requested information. There's some
So we
information.
have to go into our crawl space ourselves.
Well, I mean, I can go into crawl space, man, and help you out if you want me to.
If citizens don't want to do it, we are more than willing to go ahead and take a picture of it and see what it is. We're not interested in the rest of the premise plumbing. We're only interested in that piece of pipe coming through there.
And the thing is it's just a cast of light net because the deadline is looming, and there's a lot of small communities and small municipalities that haven't gotten their inventories done. So this is like the final scramble to the finish line. So if any citizen is willing to go in, that really takes a load off of the city crew, and it helps with the effort to get the lead service line inventory done.
Part of the lead and copper rule revisions was records research. And while we were doing this is how we found out about landfill 1, tank one, we found out all kinds of information. Unfortunately, we did not find enough information about past projects and what was required to be put in the ground. We were hoping to find it in the construction documents that type K copper was to be installed. Unfortunately, we just did not find a lot of that information.
So I want to give Public Works a plug and this council. Our asset management software is going to make it so that we document all of this maintenance that we've done, and future Public Works supervisors and future councils will have all of these
So it
records
won't look
updated.
like that, it'll look like,
It'll look like that.
it'll look like that.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, because actually the city commissioner in 1949, when they transferred from the old city hall to the new city hall, decided the records weren't important anymore and threw everything away in landfill one in 1949. So we have no record. It's weird why we couldn't find anything prior to 1949. That's why. With galvanized pipe, it does require that for us to prove that it was never serviced by a lead line. If we can't prove that, that's why it's GRR, galvanized required replacement. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that other than through construction documents. The current proposed rule, since the LCRR is a mandate by executive order by the president, which was put in prior to the actual rule revisions, were completed. So there's a new rule coming out called the LCRI. The big change is, again, the action level is 15 parts per billion, is now 10 parts per billion. It incorporates the lead and copper rule revisions that have already been in place. Currently, it's under proposal. You'd have to plan to replace all the lead service lines and galvanized required replacement. As part of this is an outreach program, and this goes on past the initial ending. This is going to be a living, breathing document, basically. We have started some outreach, coming to the council, to the decision makers as part of that outreach. Back to the customer letters, we are sending them out. If someone does not want to crawl in their crawl space, tell us. We will be more than happy to come in, take a picture of it, document it, move on. Currently, I've worked for the city for over 25 years. We've exposed hundreds of service lines over the years. We have not found a single lead service line or single lead connector anywhere in our system. We are suspect that maybe prior to 1949, when they installed all the cast iron pipe, there might have been some used before then, but we can't prove if there was or wasn't, because we've never found a section of lead pipe. If galvanized pipe, we can't, like I said, if galvanized pipe, we cannot prove whether or not it was ever serviced by a lead service line, and we're looking at replacement in the pipe. Most of the galvanized pipe we see is underneath the foundation or coming through the foundation of the wall. It's usually about this long. Because galvanized pipe does not last in our soil. It's too corrosive. Most of the galvanized pipes that we find now are away years and years ago. If we still find one, the only way we find it, or probably find out about it, is pinhole. If we find it now, we're going to replace it anyway, because we can't keep it here. The last time I saw one active was probably about 20 years ago. So as far as my feelings are, working the system as long as I have, I really don't feel there's too big a concern of the lead line issue, because we've never even ran across it in the old services. We dug across the old water mains prior to 1949, found connections with corpse and copper. So we still have to meet the rule, we still need to have the inventory, and we still need to think about the galvanized pipes.
So I want to throw something out to the council too. The reason that galvanized pipe, because I didn't understand why galvanized pipe was an issue, but galvanized pipe is, the pipe is treated with zinc, and zinc is close enough on the periodic table to lead that it'll actually grab lead molecules and hold on to them. And then if you put a different chemistry water through the galvanized pipe, then it lets that lead go, and then you'll start failing your samples. But I thought it was kind of interesting because I didn't know why they kept talking about galvanized pipe, and then somebody from my organization let me know that's the reason that they did that.
Yeah, see, like Flint, Michigan, they had a change in their pH, was what happened to them. When they changed their source, the pH changed, they didn't attack that problem. And in Flint, Michigan, it was all dollars and cents. People in charge were not willing to pay the extra money to adjust the pH so that wouldn't happen. And then when the bottles started showing up, people started complaining a lot. Nothing happened. They were not listened to, they were not heard. And it finally went to national news, and then finally something done. Questions? I'm sure there are.
Where do you begin?
Where we're at, initially. That's where we begin.
Is there any idea what this is gonna cost the city?
Not yet. Looking at the, talking to contractors, looking at recent construction documents we've reviewed. Basically, we'd be looking at exploratory days in order to prove what's on the customer side, what's on our side of the property line. They're between $1,300 and $1,800 a piece. Did they all find it?
That's 520 something.
577. We're looking at about 645,000 if that's the direction we go. Some of these we've also got done in the meantime. 7th Avenue, there were 12 services we didn't have. Out of the 19 we did not have identified. Those are knocked off the list. We know the copper on the customer side, but the polyethylene on our side. There was 7 on the South Summit project, Boyd Avenue project, there was 5. So as we're doing these construction projects, we've been knocking some out, as well as our regular routine O&M. We have service line leaking. We document where we document the address it's at and fill out the GIS and move on. So that number's changed since then, since we first initially started working on this.
So since the president ordered it, I think you got to pay for it.
Well, that's the thing. It is a funded mandate according to.
It is a funded mandate.
Yes.
Well, that is
It's funded through the state revolving fund, which is a loan program.
But we have to borrow the money?
Some of it. There's usually more money given to projects related to lead service line replacements and galvanized service line replacements. But it's a matter of building yet another project that we need to work on in the next few years.
The state had already put $100,000 in each, every water district, every municipality in the state got an earmarked $100,000 put in to the tune of like $65 or $67 million. And that was the precursor, and then that's to help out with the replacements and stuff like that.
We haven't started building the plan to replace the galvanized pipes and the sort of stuff we do the investigations, because we need the initial inventory done first. We have a lot of that done, but we're waiting. EA is supposed to get us the information in the next couple of weeks. So it's something we have planned for in the near future. But if people ask you about it and you can't answer the question, just someone call me. So,
Definitely.
Councilman Owens and myself are both working in the water industry, and this has been a big push for the last 2-3 years. And yeah, just another step we have to make. Another thing we have to do. It's not a big deal. So we're a lot better off in Flint, Michigan with 99,000 services.
Who knows that?
Questions?
Thank you for an excellent presentation.
Are there any questions on the reports?
Yes.
Extra dog, waste station, are they all accounted for the bike path?
No, not all. Well, actually, no, because we had two that we didn't know were donated, and we don't know what they were donated for. Mrs. Vickers actually donated a couple of things for the dog park. You did talk to her and say, ask her if we can use one of the lessons. I know I had a request for the bike park.
Yep.
So,
And a sign that says keep dogs on leash.
we'll have to get that. So, unfortunately, with the storm last week, we spent most of the week doing storm cleanup or prepping for the madness on Main. And first thing happens is we'll go hydraulic hose. So we had to get that fixed and then the next day the storm. So we got it into us.
Any other questions for?
I was gonna ask about the waste stations too.
Yeah, unfortunately, the cemetery was hit really bad. I don't remember how many truckloads they said they held out there, but there was multiple truckloads of branches and stuff that came out of the trees up there all. And branches from all over town. Yeah, really did a number on there.
And the wind helped us get rid of those nasty branches there. We'll hold off for the dog.
Okay, we'll move on. Police Chief Derek Thompson is on vacation and I have no report from him. I don't know if anybody on the police committee does. Can I get a motion to move from regular session to enter into executive session regarding Wyoming statute 16-4-405 A BLI real estate and 16-4-405 WI personnel.
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, moving into executive session at 8:35. Thank you.